So I'll talk about, I'll use a lot of words to talk about pictures. So it's about really showing what you mean with prototypes, for one. It's all about communication. But who am I, or where do I come from? My name is Christopher, as Amir already introduced me. I founded the Ergonomen in 2009, but before I had a spin-off company of DTH Zurich, where I also did my PhD degrees, and later on the spin-off of the Usability Lab of DTH. So almost 20 years in the business. Now the company sits here near the Schmiede Wiedikon in the middle of Zurich. Very nice place, but we'll leave by the end of the year. We need to leave and find something else in Zurich, but that's a different topic. I own the company. We're based in Zurich. We had a steady growth over the last 10 years. Yes, we're 10 years old. We have 2 usability labs. It's one of the services we do. And we have a great team. So this is our team. That's really the most important part. We do have fun. You can't see it on a picture. It's just a nice picture. This was just on the onset of our 10-year anniversary. So afterwards it got a bit louder still. So we have most of our team are here on the picture. We have UX designers, we have ergonomists, we have media scientists, computer science specialists, everything. So more in the expert field, because we deliver services from the outside in. We deliver the outside in perspective in projects. So our core competencies are user research and customer experience, user-centered design, and behavioral insights. Why do I show you this? It's all about making products simple and clear so that they are effective to use. And I'll talk to you about how we go at it to reach that goal. For one, the user is king. The user is always right. Is that correct? What do you think? Yeah, sure. I mean, no. What you can see here is just one of our labs. This is a usability test running. Who of you has performed the usability test, him, herself? Wow, okay. So I don't need to explain the method. We always have also our clients here. You see the ghosts in the mirror. So this is very important. We need to show what the users think. We don't explain, we don't write reports or long reports. It's all about showing. And what we also can say is that the user is not always right. So we collect the user's point of view and take that as a basis to optimize a product. Problem is, the user cannot tell the designer what they want. So if you are in an innovation process, you can't just ask your future users, what product do you need to have? It's really your responsibility to come up with the idea and then to check whether this idea really works. The designers, they create the product, and the users are those who use it or don't use it. So the judges are out there, your users. And the user's perspective is just one of many perspectives there are. Because it's very, very important that you're listening to the 3 voices. The one is the business, and the market, and the user. So if you just listen to the user's point of view, you just miss out on the most important aspects. So what are the 3 voices? So if you have the stakeholders, are there stakeholders in the room? You all manage stakeholders. And it's very important that you know what they really want to have. And the most difficult part is to find out what the hidden agendas are, right? So what are the real expectations of the stakeholders? And for that you can use stakeholder interviews, for instance, or there are other methods to just elicit or get to the bottom of what the stakeholders want and need and expect. Then there's the voice of the market. So what are standards, trends, what is needed, what are the requirements on the market? There you can do a lot of quantitative metrics to find that out. And for the user, the voice of the customer. So what is the perceived value of the customer? That's extremely difficult to find out. It's the whole user experience or the customer experience in that matter that you need to find out. And that's just not done with the usability test itself. So what is the value you need to bring to the user to succeed? That is really the question, and there are the UX strategy methods that you can put into place. So the problem here, this is only showing the problem. The customers cannot tell the designers what they want. The market data are not available, for instance, that if you have a new product, you need to try it out. And the stakeholders don't know either, or worse, hide their agendas. So that's where a picture is worth 1,000 words. You try out, you provocate, it's all about showing. There is the common sense of prototyping. You know, if you have a prototype, can show with the pointer, you do prototyping, then you construct something, and after the release you have the happy customer, right? So this is all the product view of prototyping. You do prototyping for the product. And else, if you don't do that, yeah, probably you have an unhappy customer. With agile development, you're mostly the lower part, but there, as what Phil told us, it's all about how much risk and how much effort you want to put in. So this is also one way that can work. But if you're prototyping for the product, you check feasibility, you do user validation, and it's a part of agile development, so that you really move in small steps and develop the product further, really product focused. One example, the AO Foundation. Do you know AO Foundation? These are the guys in Davos that produce all those implants where you can fix broken bones and stuff. They have a surgery reference where you can really look up all the procedures that can be done with bones and implants to fix bones. And this reference is online. What we have here, you can't see it, nobody can see it, but this is actually the menu. These are all the procedures there are. That's how long the list is. If you take out parts of that, it's this small section here. It's all those procedures you can select. So if you have, let's say, a spiral wedge fracture, whoever had that here, I don't hope you ever had that, and you want to do an open reduction bridge plating procedure, you then have to select that, and you see the whole procedure here. You can see this highly complex, and it's about teaching doctors to select the right procedure in order to buy AO Foundation's products, or products of AO Foundation sponsors, for that matter. So, and how do you get to optimize this product? You have something, and then you prototype for the product. You produce different versions of how you think it could work. You test, you optimize the product, start with wireframes, go to functional prototypes, you test again, and in the end you have an approximation of the best result you can get from something that's already there. So this is the optimization part. So you can use the prototypes for the product to optimize the product with the help of the users. But you can also use the prototype for the project team as a communication tool. this is a prototype. If you can show something, if you visualize the ideas, it very quickly becomes the universal language everybody understands. So if you can discuss a wireframe or a sketch or a flowchart or whatever, this really helps to understand each other and from the different viewpoints and roles. It's also a tangible product vision. So instead of having specifications, code, or market research data, you can produce a prototype to show what you want, to project the future and to have a starting point for discussion. Are we on track for the right vision? And, as I said before, you can use it as a provocation to trigger reactions. It's very important that if you put something on the table and you have different stakeholders around the table, so from marketing, from business, from development, from design, whomever you have in the product team, if you can show that, if you have something functional, you can live through the product, you can experience the product early on, and then discuss what is missing, what is too much. Are we on the right track? Are we missing the objectives? So showing this really elicits the reaction we want to have. An example. Airfields, you have all those lights. This is the airfield lighting. We had a project with the Flughafen Zürich. And this airfield lighting is really a dinosaur. It's from the last millennium, actually. Very old. It runs on millions of small cables. And this had to be replaced. Thing is, it's not about a graphical user interface. It's really about understanding who needs to work with the airfield lighting. The airfield lighting is not only about the maintenance teams fixing the lights on the runway. So there are different roles connected with that. You have apron control for the apron lighting. So there, everywhere the airplanes are rolling or standing. You have Sky Guide for all incoming and outgoing planes in the air. So for the traffic, you have airfield maintenance, the guys responsible for electronics and the lights themselves. And you have the sheriffs, the airfield authority, so those responsible for safety.
Not the pilots?
No. They don't use airfield lighting. They are those suffering from the lighting if it's not working correctly. But they're international standards, so the pilots, if they say something, they complain. Oh, your lights are too light or whatever, so too bright. So we have Sky Guide. Sky Guide are the guys that really they manage the runway. So if you're approaching from the east, they have to set the special settings for landing from the east, etc. So they're really the safety guys for the landing and taking off. Mostly landing is relevant. Taking off, you can do that in the dark. Then you have apron control. They have the nicest view in all of Zurich, I think. They have all the airplanes. They have the whole Zürich Unterland, which is beautiful. So they have the responsibility for everything concrete on the ground. Then you have airport authority. Here I think the view doesn't matter really. They have so many monitors, they don't need the fresh air. But they need to control, they need to be in the loop for everything that's happening. And then you have those with the crappiest view, which are the maintenance guys. They're below the ground, in the bunkers, distributed all over the airfield. And they need to check incidents, have incidents reporting. They have to check where the lamps are not functioning properly. So they also have important stakes in the whole thing. So what we did is we produced a prototype. And this prototype shows for Sky Guide, for apron control, for the maintenance guys, and for the airport authority all the relevant information. So what the maintenance guys need are the error messages, for instance. And the airport authority just needs to have the high priority messages, so not to be overloaded with messages. And the others need to steer and really work with the lighting systems. So by using this approach, it was possible for them to discuss their roles and how their communication workflows go. So this is highly complex because they had different views, they had different needs, they had different rules and regulations. And by showing what they have, we could discuss completely different stuff. So about rules, standard operating procedures, and how they work together, how to optimize the process itself. So we went from showing what they have and can have to how the future could be and how the process could be optimized. So it's a universal language. It's all about communication. The other thing is we had lots of workshops and lots of different responsibilities clashing, and this really helped for transparency. So they really work greatly together. They're absolute pros, but still we could help them optimize their way of working together through transparency. So creating a common understanding and a common goal as well. And then, yeah, they had those operating concepts. They had thick, whatever, manuals on how to go through procedures. They had requirement specifications and product specifications for the new system. This naturally is far off from seeing the goal. You know, if you have specifications and you need to imagine what the end result is, and looking at that from different roles, it's really a long way to go. But if you have this prototype, it was extremely clear to them. So this is the future, there we need to go. And it was also very, very well accepted by those companies, the huge software company that in the end could produce the whole software. Because for them, the specifications were just clear. They could click through the prototype and could really feel or experience what the end product should be. So this is about efficiency in the end. Now for us in our role, sometimes or most of the times in projects we are the moderators between roles. We have the developers, the POs, designers, CEO, marketing, product managers, business, what have you not. So all those roles, and we have the users and the customers in the end. And we stand in between those and are the translators. There are a lot of things that can be lost in translation, but that's why those arrows are dashed and not full. So what helps us in our daily work is really we use prototypes, and we can test. Yeah, testing is also very important, to have the voices of the customers very close to the people that need to work with the results. And in the end, we have two parties that gain from everything. So we have the business side and the stakeholders, and we have the users that really profit from the whole thing. So take-home messages, in short, use prototypes as communications tools. Prototypes are easy to do. Take a pencil and a paper. It's really enough. Start early on in the process. The sooner you can show stuff, you don't have to explain. Be precise. Put also effort in the details. Geld on you. And revise constantly. A prototype needs to live. You know, if you're not ready to dismiss everything and throw it in the garbage bin, then you're not prototyping right. So you really have to take it as a working or a modeling clay in the end. Provocation is good. Don't try to be correct, it's not worth anything. So prototyping is really about trying to find your way. It's an innovation process. And don't stop at UX. So the outside-in perspective is king. The user is part of that, but with a prototype, you can really enable people to change the perspective. And that's the really valuable part of everything. If you get your stakeholders to change perspective, then you've gained everything. Thank you very much. Any questions?
There's this part of sharing ideas in pictures where they can influence, let's say, and bias the design process. Let's say I'm a stakeholder, I'm a PM, I'm a developer, I'm somebody from marketing, and I already come with a requirement and tell you, hey, I would like this to look like this, and it biases the whole thing into working towards that direction. Do you have any comment about this and how we can avoid the trap of going towards that first idea and optimizing for that first idea when that could just be the start of a conversation instead?
Yeah, so your question is, I tried to repeat for the video, how to avoid setting, let's say, a fact before the discussion.
Right.
So that's it's a very important thing, and we saw that also in different projects that really, they did not lead to a success. Let's say it more friendly, in a more friendly way. The thing is, if you have a preset idea, you can come up with requirements. You can really ask or put that in the whole discussion. Also with prototypes or with visualizations, or in almost every pitch you show. We have also big agencies here with, let's say, a lot of experience in pitching. So you produce something that's not really thought through. You cannot in a few days. So this really sets a precedent that is very, very difficult. But then you need to use the prototype to break that up. And if it needs to really escalate up to the C-level, that's probably the way to go. But it's really a difficult thing. The prototype can help you by showing with usability testing, for instance, or by showing the C-level. Now click through the whole thing and try it out. It's not about being beautiful, it's about being functional. And the design can come later, or the nice design. So, yeah, you can use the prototype to break up that vicious cycle. Yes?
On your last slide you said don't stop at UX. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that?
Yeah, it's not only about don't stop at UX. What I mean with that, it's a very good question. So the thing is, I wanted to make a point that UX is something, this focus on the user is very important, but it's not everything. So you also need to broaden your view and to take into account that user experience is one, but stakeholder experience is the other one. So that's the complement that is needed, that you also have to support, or that the vision is really followed through. So the outside-in perspective, the change of the perspective, the empathy was also, it's just very important. It's not the user that is king, it's this change of perspective that really makes a difference. Yes, please.
Your first point, you use prototype as a communications tool. How refined should that be? Is it just something like a wireframe that's enough, or should it be pixel perfect?
So for communication tools, what is the level of perfection you need? From 0 to 100%. So whatever you can show is easier than to explain. So that's the whole thing. Yeah, we start very, very early on in the process and start with paper pencil prototyping if needed, or just use flip charts and ask, did I get that correctly, or what did you mean? Even with in discussions about proposals. So the level is not important, or the level of detail.
I have one.
Sure.
How do you balance all those, let's say, requiremental voices? You have the business, you have the user, you have the market, and yeah, how do you support this process to align all of them?
Yeah, with prototyping, how do I align all those stakeholders in the process? Oh, sorry.
One requirement over the other one.
We don't really have to prioritize. If you use prototyping, in most cases the priorities get clear, because you go through the process, you experience what the idea is, and the stakeholders can find a good compromise. So in the end, it's also about finding a compromise and not having the best solution, or we are not right. Nobody is always right, not even the user, as I said before. So we do here, in the usability test, there's you've experienced, most of you have experienced that if you have the clients present or the stakeholders present, there are a lot of things going on. So a lot of thought processes, and you can also revise your whatever you thought was correct before. If you see how the user, that's this poor guy here, how he really suffers from what you've produced or what you thought was correct, then you don't talk about who is to blame, but you talk about how to optimize the product or the process or the service in a way that it's more useful in the end. So this is really helpful. It's key to many projects I've seen. Also between agencies and their clients. It's not about blaming the agency for not picking up the requirements, or blaming the client for not telling them the whole story. It's about, that's new. Let's discuss how we include that in the product. It's a very positive way.
About like user testing, usability testing, and prototyping. So that happens when there's already like an idea of what the product has to be and what it's going to be. Are you ever involved before that, before the creation process of the product?
More and more, yes. So we also do a lot in behavioral insights in this area, and there are a lot more or earlier on concepts that lead to products or the design phase. So in the more strategic part, and there we also use, let's say, prototypes or visualization of ideas, or treatments or whatever. And yeah, we come from the evaluation part, and that's still an important part of our business, but the more strategic side is also very important, or gets more important. And in the end, it's also depending on our great team. We have fun, we have cool people. Talk to Daniel, he's here. And if you want to join, just send me an email or talk to Daniel. So. Any other questions?
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.